Good morning, guys. Welcome to your bonus episode of your astrological forecasts. Today, we're going to be discussing our ingress forecast. We're going to be taking a look at Athena, or sometimes known as Pallas Athena, coming into Gemini today. If you haven't already seen today's daily astrological forecast, I would recommend checking that out, as I will be referencing a number of, transits and stuff that occurred today and apply them to this episode of Pallas Athena coming into Gemini. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on with this interesting cycle, because today is a very interesting day. So, the main event that obviously we're going to be discussing is Pallas Athena in Gemini. Now, we got to keep in mind what has been going on with Pallas Athena for this whole, several months, I want to kind of say. Because she's been a rather interesting sign, in which when I first began following her, she was retrograding on top of Uranus. Now, this was several months back. And eventually she went direct and went back into Taurus. This lends itself to the fact that she was already in Taurus before I, kind of picked up astrology on a daily basis. And she went retrograde and went back into Aries before returning to Taurus. So, she just came out of a retrograde, pretty recent for her. Went into Taurus, messed up for the most part, had to come back and retake the class, essentially, right? Had to go back to Aries, find out what her direction in life was, what she wanted to be like, what she wanted to, essentially walk as. And then had to go into Taurus to be able to make that a stability, make that a reality, ground that energy, that fiery, passionate energy of Aries, and ground it in Taurus. Now, again, this is rather interesting because the first four signs kind of deal with more of our aspects of ourself. So having Athena go through these self houses of Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer, it's very interesting how she plays a much bigger emphasis role as opposed being in, say, for example, Scorpio or Libra or even Aquarius. But Pallas Athena does gain a number of interesting benefits going through Gemini, especially today. As you guys may have seen, through her transit in Taurus, she's been having a massive square off with Jupiter on the other side in Scorpio. It's been rough, it's been heavy, it's been weighing on her. You definitely don't like to have the Lord of optimism, luck, and faith be opposing you. It's not a very easy energy to handle, especially given the fact that Zeus has been in the underworld kicking a lot of bad ass. So it's been really difficult to really find the direction you want to go in, and most of all, stick with the direction that you wanted to go in, because of this opposition with Jupiter. Now, of course, you guys know that I really love to talk about the asteroids, and it goes without saying that Juno has been conjunct Neptune for a couple days now, and it's been really great because it's been telling us to stick to our ideals, stick with our utopian thoughts, stick with essentially the direction that we want to go in, that we know to be true, that we know to be right. If our direction in life is to reach some kind of utopia, Juno conjunct Neptune has been really telling us it's okay, even if it's a fantasy, even if it's a dream, stick with it. Because yes, it may seem as an unattainable goal, but it is a goal that will push you forward, because anything that comes easy to you, you will probably won't value it as much as something that you put a lot of hard work into. And so Athena in Taurus was definitely putting in a lot of hard work to be able to reach the destination that she wants to get to. But again, opposing this Jupiter did not give her a lot of confidence, did not give her a lot of substantial grounding desired to be able to get to where she wanted to go. And so with that, we were in a very fixed mentality of, I think I can do it, but I'm not very comfortable. I don't think I'm, doing it properly, or I don't think I'm going at a pace I need to be going, or I don't think I blah, 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 right? There was a lot of self-doubting because of this opposition with Jupiter. It was a very fixed sign, so it's just going to, once it's stuck in a certain mentality, it's very difficult to get out of it. Whether this means holding grudges, whether this meant having high optimism, right? If this would have been a trine or a sextile, this would have been extremely beneficial, because it would have meant that the benefits of Jupiter would have stuck that much harder. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And instead, we were stuck with the harder to deal with emotions of opposing that Jupiter. Even though all of this time we have been sextiling Chiron, trying to really focus our direction in healing our wounds, right? Which is something that we've definitely been talking about through this Aries season so far, especially this Mercurial retrograde one. So again, Athena has really been trying to go down in the direction that she needs to go in to be able to accomplish her Chiron duty, but she hasn't had really the highest level of optimism and faith to really be able to execute a lot of those tasks. So now today she will be ingressing into Gemini. And that's kind of a really interesting ideology. When I think of Athena in Taurus, I think of food fight and just pretty much throwing a cake across the room and slapping it in someone's face. I would also argue the same thing is true for Mars in Taurus. But Athena is very much the almost feminine side of Mars. If we kind of think of it in a more how would you say this, governmental side of things, Mars is your offensive tactical unit of the military, whereas Athena is more like your national defenses. Mars is way more outward aggressive, more going out there picking fights, more willing to conquer others. Whereas Athena very much borrows the energy of Sagittarius and Cancer, Sagittarius and Capricorn, which will lend it to be more sophisticated, more well thought out ideas, being able to see the bigger picture. Mars does not quite do that. Mars is very much loose fireball cannon and goes in there until its fire burns out, because it also rules Scorpio. But with Athena, it's more Sagittarian Capricorn, which is more like, takes the wisdom, knowledge, experience that it had gained in Sagittarius and seeks to accomplish and achieve and obtain of Capricorn. So when we look at Pallas Athena coming into Gemini, we're going to see the warrioress come out through words, right? We're not playing with swords here, we're not playing with guns here, and we're putting the food down so that we can come into the first air sign of the zodiac for Athena and really use words as our weapon. Now, again, this is very much lending itself to a very interesting aspect that we've been going on here that we've had. If you've seen the astrological forecast for today, you guys know that Mercury is playing a huge role today as it is aspecting a number of interesting things. Had a powerful yacht today. And of course, the moon is in Virgo. Again, Mercury rules both Gemini and Virgo, and the moon happens to be in Virgo. This is a lot of really powerful analytical energy that's going on here as well. But Virgo rules publishing, Virgo rules words, but more on a more systematic level than Gemini does, right? Gemini rules words on a more creative, expressive level, whereas Virgo is more methodical about it, more thought out, more review, and making sure that my message is clear and perfect. Again, moon in Virgo. So definitely trying to make sure that what I'm throwing out is the fact. I'm not here to throw out a thesis paper. I'm here to throw out a I guess you can kind of really even say your own thesis, but kind of like the facts for how things are, as opposed to theoretical ideas. So yeah, they could definitely throw out their fact thesis at you for sure, but they're not really going to be caring too much about theories and crafting ideas and all that stuff. That's probably going to be either more Gemini or Sagittarius, to be honest. So with Athena coming into Gemini here, we're definitely going to be seeing a, how do I say this, increase in the way, or not even necessarily an increase, but a shift in how we go about finding our direction, right? So when we talk about Gemini, and let's talk a little bit about the higher vibrations of Gemini. Gemini is very sociable, very curious. It's very childish in a very fun way. Gemini is kind of curious about everything. It's interested in everything. It's the curiosity killed the cat sign. It's very much there to instigate conversations with everyone else, to be able to obtain whatever it is that it desires, whether it's communication with someone else, information, whatever it is, it goes through Gemini. Of course, Gemini also rules things like transportation, technology, computers, small devices, which is one of the reasons why whenever Mercury goes retrograde, we have a lot of internet issues. We have a lot of technology issues. Devices aren't working the way that they should. Heck, you might even see an increase in car accidents. It definitely rules a lot of those necessities for us in our everyday lives. And speaking of everyday lives, Mercury is very much our local life, or not Mercury, excuse me. Gemini is more of our local life, our the people that are near to us, that we speak to, that we interact with. Whereas Sagittarius would kind of be like, foreign affairs, foreign travel, foreign people, far distances, something that is completely different to us. Gemini, being ruled by Mercury, is pretty much essentially that which is close to us, that which is familiar to us, and that which we see kind of like on a day-to-day aspect, which is why Mercury also rules Virgo, which is literally routines, doing things over and over in a single day. So Athena really coming into Gemini really does kind of bring out that not necessarily aggression, but definitely that warrior's energy within you, to sharpen your minds, to be more intellectual, to use instead of your swords and guns, to use your words instead. What's what's a big popular phrase that was thrown around often? The pen is mightier than the sword, right? This is definitely Athena's philosophy as she comes into Gemini, in which communications may be able to resolve issues that war just has not been able to achieve. She very much values her creative aspect here, as Athena does lend itself a lot of energy from Sagittarius. It's a very creative sign, and bringing her into Gemini here will definitely lend her creative mind to be more progressive, to be more thought oriented, to want to explore the horizons that she is able to set her sights on. Definitely sharing wisdom and knowledge through the power of words. By the same token, Athena may also be rather protective through words, right? And this is where we need to be a little bit careful of being a little too impulsive and too defensive when engaging with other people, because having Athena now join in Gemini means that we are more verbally oriented, more thought oriented, as opposed to being kind of stuck in the way that we were before. And it means that we may misfire our words at the wrong people, wanting to be protective and defensive of our own self and those that we care for. We may accidentally say the wrong thing to the wrong person because we still are in the middle of a Mercury retrograde. So this energy still hasn't gone away yet. And again, Mercury retrograde is essentially Mercury not working as it normally would. Now, of course, if you have Mercury retrograde natally in your chart, this is a really good time for you, because this is the energy that you're accustomed to. But for the majority of the people, this is not the type of energy that we really like to be in, and let the world be indicative of Mercury's influence every time we have a retrograde. So again, your wisdom is going to come out through words. It's going to be more fast forward. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury's other name happens to be Hermes, which is why we have items in video games such as Hermes boots, right? It is a very fast sign. It moves quickly. You can kind of equate the Flash with Mercury. So thoughts and chaos are definitely going to come by much faster. The direction that you want to go in is going to pick up much quicker. You're either going to want to thrust yourself in there at a much faster pace, or you may just realize that the direction that you want to go in is moving at a much faster pace than you are moving, and so adjustments will need to be made so that you can accommodate that. I also mentioned that we are also moving into a mutable sign, which is a pretty neat thing considering we've been in a cardinal and fixed sign for a very long time. So coming into a mutable sign will definitely help us really make the transformation and changes that we need towards the direction that we want to move into. When Athena was in Aries, that cardinal energy was lending itself to be able to create the changes to the direction we want to go in. Going into a fixed sign was definitely just putting in more work, putting in the percentages, doing the progress, and we didn't really see a whole lot of results from it, but we definitely put in a lot of work into it. As Athena moves into Gemini, we're definitely going to be seeing a lot more manifestations, a lot more, changes, completions to the directions that we wanted to go in before we move back into another cardinal sign, which will be Cancer much later from now. So, during this time period here in Gemini, coming to a mutable sign, we're coming towards the end of this three modality cycle, where we will be seeing the transformation, seeing the changes in the direction that we have chosen, hopefully back in Aries, put in all of that hard work through Taurus, and now giving a bit of life to it here in Gemini. Um, Now, of course, as we talk about, coming into the sign, we have to kind of take a look at some of the aspects that have been going on. And of course, we're still opposing Jupiter, which isn't the greatest thing, especially as we come into a mutable sign of Gemini. But even worse, it's the sign that it normally opposes to begin with, right? Jupiter does rule Sagittarius, whereas Gemini rules Gemini. So definitely Jupiter tends to natally want to oppose the lower mind of Gemini. But coming into this energy here, the lower mind is definitely going to be influenced by the higher deity here. And so coming into this sign, I want to strongly advise that you may become a bit more susceptible to that negativity of Jupiter because of that retrograding opposition. Definitely mutable signs are more susceptible to the opinions of others and the energies of others. And of course, our mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So as Athena comes into this, we're definitely going to be feeling that Jupiterian energy a little more than we wish we did, as far as the directions we want to go and the changes we want to make. But this energy won't be sticking around for too long, as Athena is much faster than Jupiter is, and being already 8 degrees apart, within the next 2 to 3 degrees, we should be able to break off this opposition at last. And it should be smooth sailing for Athena as it cruises through Gemini. Definitely a much needed break. Definitely a much needed just energetic progression here. Athena has gone through quite a lot, having to had retrograded in Taurus, and then having that Jupiter opposition throughout the course of finishing up Taurus. It's been very hard on her. It's been very heavy on her. So definitely once it reaches around 5 degrees in Gemini, things are going to start looking up a little bit better. In fact, I kind of want to say a little bit before, but I'd rather highball it than lowball it. So definitely once we're within that 5 degree mark, Athena will definitely feel a lot more liberated from all of that. And instead, we're going to be taking a look at the squares that are going to be happening with Pisces. Throughout this Gemini transit, Athena is going to be squaring Neptune and possibly Juno. We'll see. But definitely Neptune. And that's when things are going to get a little bit dicey. But that's not going to be for quite some time now. So definitely welcome to Athena and Gemini. It's definitely going to be a very interesting time period. Again, being in Gemini is very much very closely related with the lower mind, with our almost, I want to say, conscious mind here in the lower realms of what we call Earth. So, if you start getting ideas of the directions you want to be able to pursue, whether that be work, entertainment, private life, public life, hobbies, or whatever have you, do keep in mind that we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of directional changes during this Gemini transit. So, yeah, by the way, for anyone out there who happens to be a writer, this is also a really interesting time period, having some air energy at freaking last. Very good timing for, start to use your words as a way to express yourself in a very creative manner. Definitely would not be surprised to see a uptick in things like fanfic, or even just actual general writing. I wouldn't necessarily write for publishing. Like I said, we don't have a lot of Virgo energy right now. That's not something that I would think lends itself very well to that. But definitely for creative writing, there's definitely now at least some supportive energy for that. And being Athena, I think that's a really cool and really good sign for it. So yeah, really, that kind of really concludes our Athena in Gemini for now. We'll be interested to see how this transit goes through this sign. And of course, if you want to keep up with Athena and all of the other planets and asteroids, consider subscribing and clicking that bell for our little channel here, in which we do daily astrological forecasts every day at 9 a.m. EST. We will be covering these transits and seeing how they develop as they go through their signs. So with that said, thank you all so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. We will be having a Vesta ingress happening very shortly on the 1st, I believe it is. So keep an eye out on that. We also have Venus ingressing into Taurus as well very soon. So keep an eye out for that as well. So we're gonna have a number of very feminine energy, all changing signs really shortly here. So just keep that in mind. Very interesting to see how this is going to play out and how the energy decides to essentially play ball with what's been going on. So yeah, thank you all so much for coming in. Really do appreciate it. Hopefully you guys found this video useful. If you did, give a like. Really do appreciate you guys' feedback and support. Means the world. Helps me continue to be able to do this on a very positive note. But yeah, with that said, as always guys, stay safe, stay positive, and I'll catch you guys on the next cast. Peace.